Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. I'm your host, Mary, and I'm glad to be back with you this Self Love Club Sunday. It has been a while since I've had I guess, actually, no, it has not been a while. It has been 1 week since I had a solo episode, but I really hope you enjoyed last week's guest. I still feel kind of on a high from chatting with Soleil. She really gave me so much energy, especially as I mentioned when I was recording that I was dealing with a cold. I was not feeling my best, and my working hours, as many of all of you probably can relate to, many of you, if not all, are all over the place. My hours are sometimes I start my day at 7:30 or 8 a.m. Other times I start my day a little bit later, but I work until late into the evening. It's just this joy of working from home and working with people sort of all around the world and in different locations, time zones, all that good stuff. So when I had that chat with Soleil, it felt great to be able to connect with her and receive so much positivity and energy from her, especially when I wasn't feeling well. And then when I listened to it back after I had been feeling better, I was like, oh, wow, I still feel so great from having this chat with her and just getting to know her, her journey, and just such an open and honest conversation, which I think, well, I do know is our goal of ours, but I think it's something that we don't always see in the content realm of the internet. It's not always about, I would say, authenticity to the real definition. I think there's a lot of conversations that are trying to be authentic or feeling very real, but a lot of people still put up a front or maybe just are unsure of like totally exposing maybe something they've been going through, something they're currently dealing with, and that's totally fair. But I really am about transparency. Obviously, I've talked a lot about my own personal life and my personal journey on here, but I just believe that if we can share what we're navigating while we're in it or once we're through it and we have the clarity to share, we're more likely to be able to help other people. And that's really why I'm here is I want all of us to learn and grow together, and hopefully all of my ramblings here on the mic and with guests and things like that allow some of you to feel connected and resonated with the conversation. And I just appreciate any of you who send messages, DMs, emails, whatever it may be. It's so great to hear that you relate to the content because that's sort of why we do it, is for all of us to relate, to feel heard and seen and valued in this lifetime because it's a wild lifetime. So, this week, we're still touching on our intention of rest and reset for November. It's hard to believe this is the last week of November. I've said this many, many times on the podcast, but I really don't understand how this year has gone on the way it has. And now that we're at the end of November, but alas, here we are. And I think more than ever this time of year, this concept of rest is not one that we have in our wheelhouse because it's the end of the year. If you work in retail, Q4 is a busy, busy time, or marketing, anything like that. Obviously, Thanksgiving, which is just past for Americans, but also Canadian Thanksgiving's at the end of the year. And then we have holidays. So there's a lot of travel, a lot of things going on that just end up kind of ruining your ability to have routine, to have any semblance of normalcy, or to create space for rest because you're go, go, go and fitting in more people and things than you normally would. Which is why I want to talk about how to cycle sync. Basically, for the girlies, this episode truly is for the girls. And I really want to talk about our menstruation cycle and how we can find rest through our menstruation cycle and the different phases, because this is something that I have been obviously diving into with it when it comes to endometriosis, but it's something I've been learning a lot more about in the past, I would say 3 or 4 years. I've read a lot of books. I'll put them in the show notes so you can find the books and read them if you'd like. But a lot of different books, obviously listening to podcasts and so many different things about the phases of our menstruation cycle, which I'm going to be honest with you, up until 4 years ago, I thought there was like two phases, like your menstruation when you have your period and then ovulation. Like I really thought those were the only two. But it turns out there's four. There's four phases of your menstrual cycle, and how your body reacts to your menstrual cycle and those phases is something that needs to be talked about more. We should be learning this in school. We should be told all of this by our doctors. I mean, so many things we should be. So I'm here to share my insights, my personal experiences with understanding my cycle, and obviously giving you the actual facts. So I did take notes today. If you see me looking down at my phone on YouTube, that's why, because I cannot remember all of these specific details. So I want to make sure that I was giving you the accurate information. But I'm going to walk you through the four different phases and how my body and how I've learned to lean into these phases, because technically a woman is on a 28-day cycle, which obviously, if you are menstruating or you're following your cycle, it may not be 28 days perfectly. Some people have a shorter one, some people have a longer one. And many of us have no idea because of different hormone disruptions in our cycles all over the place. So, this is just following that 28-day guide of what your cycle is in the four different phases that you go through and how your body changes. Because the world has really been set up for a men's hormonal cycle, which is a 24-hour cycle, whereas a women's cycle is 28 days. So you may be thinking, well, there's some weeks that I'm so good at my weightlifting. Like I feel so strong. I can lift so much more weight. I have all the energy. And then other weeks going for a walk to get a coffee is so draining and exhausting. It's because you're at a different part of your cycle and in a different phase. And so your body is completely different hormone wise, but also the energy levels you have, what your body's craving, what it's needing, not only nutrient based, but type of social activity, whether you need socializing or you really need to spend some time alone. So, I'm going to dive a bit into all those different areas for your phases so that you can find the ability and the type of rest you need in each phase. Because, yes, each phase does offer opportunity for rest. It's not just one phase, and you can start to look at your month. If you are like me and you look at your monthly calendar, you can start to plan out your calendar a little bit more based on your cycle phases and seeing what week should I actually be socializing? Which week should I not be socializing and spending more time alone and really slowing down and being kind to my body? So that's the goal with all of this is, again, to prioritize that rest. And maybe this is a good reset for you. You can start looking at your cycle, start tracking it. If you don't track it, I highly recommend doing that. I'll also put the app that I use to track my cycle in the show notes. It is called My Flow, and it also has all of this information about the different phases in the app. So I highly recommend that just because all the information's there and you don't have to try to find the information when you're in a different phase or re-listen to this podcast episode like over and over. But if you want to, I'm not going to be upset if you want to listen to this podcast over and over. But anyways, let's begin with your menstruation phase. So this is actually the beginning of your cycle. This is your days 1 through 5. So for some of you, you may only menstruate for 2 or 3 days. Some people maybe 5 to 7, but roughly it's your days 1 through 5. Your hormone levels are quickly at their lowest concentrations. So they create the greatest communication between your two brain hemispheres, obviously the left, which is your analytical side, and the right is your feeling side. So during your menstruation, this is when it's easier for you to understand how you feel about situations, whether it's the facts of the situation or obviously bringing your emotions in, but bringing like the analytical, like kind of weaving the two together. And so you're able to determine the best outlook or course of action because you are weaving these two sides, your analytical and your feeling side, together. So it's a great time to be thinking strategically, maybe reviewing things that you have plans for your future or things that you want to be doing in life. And this is a great time to use your strategy and plan for your future. So again, during these days 1 through 5 of your menstrual phase, you want to be eating food that has a low glycemic index. So, like veggies and fruits that keep your blood sugar steady while you're adding fiber and antioxidants. A lot of other things can help. Again, it depends on what your diet is, but things like seafood, kelp, or nori are also good because they're full of iron and zinc. If you're a meat eater, this is a great time to eat red meat, which you are obviously losing a lot of iron during your menstruation. So, if this is something, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, it's a great time to add in a bit more of zinc or iron supplements to up those, and also to have warm foods. This is the one thing that I find during my menstruation is having like soups or stews or stir fries even. Those I find are just so delicious. Like there's a different level of enjoyment during my menstruation when I'm having soup. Don't ask me why, but it's sort of like your cozy season. You want to think about this as like you're curling up, you're really nourishing your body and giving it everything you need. And oftentimes you'll eat more during your menstruation, and that's not a problem. That's actually what your body needs. And you're also burning more fat at the same time. So this is something you want to think about is not to be feeling guilty if you're hungry. That's a whole other conversation, but also just making sure that you're giving your body what it needs. And speaking of what your body needs, exercise is usually not what your body wants during your menstruation. So, this is usually when it's lowest, and maybe long walks, maybe some yoga flows, or light movements is actually what your body is craving. And I know for me, this is the time of the month where I actually enjoy a nap. And I normally don't nap, but this is a great time to be napping and just letting your body rest and recover. So, obviously, I talked about your mentality with your hormones and kind of like combining your right and your left brain together. So, you're more analytical while also understanding your feelings. So, it's a great time to be reading reports, digging into data, and analyzing things. This is obviously work related. But if there's things in your life that you're trying to analyze, like maybe it is your financial spending or your investment portfolio, this is a great time. So you also want to start to think about different areas of your life, how you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with. This is a good time to sort of like look inward and journal and reflect on where you are now and also what's going on in your life, what you're happy with, and maybe things that you want to change. Again, this is a good time of the month to be focused on strategy. And then when it comes to your love life, so obviously the different phases of your menstrual cycle, your hormones are at different places. When your hormones are at different places, you crave love or physical connection differently. So for a lot of people, they may feel uncomfortable having sex during their menstruation, and that's totally fine. If that's you, take a break. Again, this is all about learning your body and listening to your body. But if you do want to continue to have sex or any type of intercourse, it's actually a great time to be using lube because, believe it or not, it's actually sort of a dry week down there. Despite the thought of being on your period, it's not actually great for lubrication. So, this is a good time to add in one of those natural lubes, maybe something with a little CBD in it to help you relax and feel more connected. But in terms of your relationships in general, you may feel like you want to have a bit more space. And again, this is one of those weeks that socializing may not be a priority, and that's totally okay. So, connecting with your body, connecting with your mind, listening to what you want and what it needs is really important. And not to feel odd or off if you are asking for that space. This is really important to be able to determine what your body needs and to be able to ask for the space from your loved ones, whether it's your kids or you live with your parents and you want to kind of hole up in your room, whatever it may be. This is what you want to be able to look at your body, see how you're feeling, and to articulate that to others around you so they can support you a bit better. So that's basically your menstruation phase. This is actually not the time that your moodiness is at its highest. I know a lot of people are saying that, oh, when someone's on their period because they're so moody. Well, that's actually a lie. I will get to what that phase is, but it is not your menstruation phase. So, following your menstruation phase is your follicular phase. This is days 6 through 10. So, it's a rather short phase if you're looking at the big picture of 28 days. But this is when your hormones are all low levels and they're slowly beginning to rise up again. So, FSH is a specific hormone that is able to help increase your eggs and your ovaries. So, this is when that hormone is starting to increase because obviously your eggs and your ovaries are growing a little bit. So, this hormonal effect on the brain is one of openness to new things, creativity, and new beginnings, which I'm a big fan of because I like to be creative. But this is a great time to know that that aspect of your brain and your mindset is going to be flowing more naturally. Very similar to your menstruation, there's certain foods that actually will help your hormone levels, help you feel your best. So you want to be eating vibrant, fresh, light foods. So think of like salads. You want to have, obviously we all want to have a lot of veggies, but definitely lots of veggies and lean proteins and dense energy sustaining grains. So definitely look at your calendar and your meal planning. This may be something that you want to get into, is kind of creating a weekly menu or meal. This is something I've been trying and not necessarily succeeding at, but looking at each week of your month, but also how it relates to your phases of your cycle, and maybe plan some meals around that are giving you the nutrients that you're looking for. And then take some time to journal and reflect on how do you feel differently if you're feeding your body during that phase. Just a thought if you want to get into the journaling. And then for this phase of your follicular phase, you want to have a little bit more workouts because your body's getting that energy a bit more. So you can do maybe like some cardio, some Zumba. I used to do Zumba back in the day. I did it at Good Life Fitness in Toronto. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was gonna be easy. It is really hard. So good for you if you do Zumba, but also like HIIT workouts or strength training are some really great options to do during your follicular phase. And again, it's all about listening to your body, finding what works for you, hearing what your body's craving and giving it that. And when it comes to your focus, again, your hormones are a part of your focus. So, like I said, your creativity and brainstorming is high. So, you want to start thinking about maybe those creative projects that you've put on the back burner, or, set some big intentions for your workplace, your personal life, whatever it may be. But this is a great time to get creative and sort of let your brain free flow and see what it comes up with. And then you also want to start saying yes a little bit more. So this might be some socializing, maybe things that you wouldn't normally do. I know for me, sometimes it ends up being like the networking events that I'm not always keen on doing, that I'll start saying yes to because I want to experience more things in life. So you want to kind of look at what you have in your life and how you can add more to your life, especially during this phase because you're more open and more social. And then your love and relationships. So, this is usually a bit more of a time that you will have desire to have physical intimacy. You may be more in the arousal phase to heighten your mental desire and your physical urge for sex. So, AKA, invest in that foreplay, talk to your partner, or spend some time with yourself. But that this is a great time to try a few new things, but really make sure that you are giving yourself that time to feel excited and build up to the final act if this is what you're doing. So the foreplay, I'll say no matter what, is always key, but especially during this phase. And then in relationships, since you're feeling more adventurous, this is a great time for you and your partner to maybe try something you haven't done before. Or if you're single, it's a great time to maybe try meeting someone in a new way, whether that's on a dating app or going on that blind date someone's been telling you about. So, this is a great time to be open to trying new things and exploring in all different aspects of your relationships. So, whether you're getting physical with rock climbing or getting a new perspective by maybe playing a board game you've never played or going somewhere that you've never done, building new activities helps build that connection and depth in a relationship. So again, this goes to platonic relationships as well, but you want to be able to be open and saying yes to new things. All right. This is the phase that I thought did exist as only one of the two. This is your ovulation or ovulatory phase. So I think we hopefully all know about this, is when you're ovulating is the best time to get pregnant, or your highest likelihood of getting pregnant. It is also a relatively short phase from days 11 through 15. So it's technically, I guess, 4 days. And this is when that FSH hormone that we were just talking about in your follicular is actually at its highest. It stimulates the follicle to release the egg. So this is obviously when the egg releases from your ovary. Your estrogen increases further to thicken the uterine lining. And your testosterone, believe it or not, begins to surge, driving more desire, and it drops around ovulation. So, your verbal and your social centers of the brain are stimulated by the hormones this week. So, for a lot of you, you may feel like you are, feeling a little bit more sexy, confident, all those good things. Like you're feeling like, oh, I'm going to take selfies. I look good in this outfit. This is because your hormones are at its highest. And it really is about feeling your best. It's kind of the time of your month. It's sad that it's only 4 days, but it's the time of your month that you are really just like in your element and you are feeling great. So, again, when it comes to food, you want to think about feeding yourself properly to feel your absolute best when you're feeling your best. Veggies always, but the veggies this time are more focused on fiber. And then you want to have fruit to ensure your body easily metabolizes and eliminates any extra estrogen. So for me, I would deal with a lot of symptoms of endometriosis around ovulation because my estrogen levels are really high with having endometriosis. So for anyone dealing with any hormonal imbalances, whether you know it or not, this is a great time to really focus on fiber and liver support because that helps remove any excess estrogen. And then your exercise, this is it, ladies. This is when you are feeling your like peak. You're like, I'm going to go to Soul Cycle. I'm doing a hit. I can weight lift the most, like whatever it may be. This is sort of when you are feeling your strongest, your most confident, your most able. So this is when you want to lean into doing that spin class that maybe you wouldn't do any other time of the month. So this is a great time when you, again, you're planning your month based on your phases. You want to book that Soul Cycle class, or you want to book doing a hit workout that you haven't tried, or going for a long run in the park with a group of friends. This is the time that you want to kind of push yourself and allow yourself to explore things that your body can do. Obviously, this week you're feeling your best, you're confident. So it's a great time to present ideas, to pitch, to negotiate, to do any public speaking because you have that confidence to do it. So you're not going to be second guessing yourself or doubting what you're able to do. So you want to ask for a raise during this time. So if this has been on your to do list for the end of the year, during your ovulation is when you need to schedule asking for your raise. So find that date in your calendar, circle it in red, and say, this is when I'm asking for that raise or that end of year bonus or promotion, whatever it may be, because you have heightened communication skills and it makes it easier for your message to be received. So lean into that, ladies. This is your time. Also, you want to talk with everyone. Sort of what you're feeling. This is a great time, again, to communicate. But when you are with your friends, your family, or in your community, you want to be able to connect with them and really articulate what you're feeling in those relationships, in those spaces. And you're feeling more magnetic. And they'll also be, because of that type of confidence you're exuding and that magnetism, people are going to be more likely to receive it. So it's a great time to be, manifesting things, to asking the universe to speak to you this week, and then also look for signs, be a little bit more mindful, maybe to see what the universe is saying as you're asking for all these different things. And then this is the week that you are going to be obviously feeling your best. So you are going to be really into physical intimacy. Your hormones are surging and you are definitely feeling more lubricated. You can skip the lube this phase of the month, and you are probably feeling more hot and passionate, and just in general, you're hornier. And this is a great time to jump on your partner, fulfill some of those fantasies, really just have fun and celebrate yourself. This is a big thing that I think women don't hear about in terms of their intimacy, whether it's solo intimacy or with a partner. You definitely want to be able to celebrate your body, your sexual and sensual aspects of yourself, and this is your time to do it. And if you're single, again, this is a great time to explore and really learn about your body and what you desire, and then you'll be able to articulate it better when you find the right partner. Also, for relationships, not just your romantic relationships, your communication is going to be flowing. So it's a great time to, again, be social, make plans with friends, go to parties, meet new people. And it's a great time to go on those dates, again, because you have this sort of like magnetic energy that you're going to be wooing all of those different, people you're on dates with. You're going to be making them be like, oh, this girl's got something and I want to keep getting to know her. So this is a great time to go on dates, especially ones that maybe you've been on the fence of, or you've been chatting with someone online for a while and you weren't sure when's the best time to go. This is your time. So look at that calendar, plan that date, and lean into it. Okay. And then the very last phase, this is the one that, is the longest, which is unfortunate, is days, I think 16 through 28. I believe that's correct. So it's usually around 10 days. I'm kind of going off of what my cycle is, but for me it's usually about 12 days, but normally it's 16 through 28 or 18 through 28. And this is when all your hormones, so your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, reach their peak concentrations and then they start to fall. And the fall is when the PMS starts to happen. So the estrogen thickens uterine lining and the progesterone keeps uterine lining in place in anticipation of fertilized embryo. But your brain chemistry is optimized this week for task and detail oriented things like bringing projects to completion. And like I said, the second half is when your PMS is common, but this is another thing. It's not normal to have PMS. We really shouldn't be having like crazy PMS. That's a whole other conversation that you should definitely talk to a doctor about. But it is a part of this phase, and it usually results from too much estrogen in relation to your progesterone production. So, a lot of times, if you go to your doctor and you want to learn about your hormones, this is the hot tip. You want to get your blood work done on your day 4. So, that's 4 days into menstruation. And then on day 21, which is in your luteal phase. This will help your doctor see where your hormones are in sort of the most important times to see if they're dropping or they're not dropping at the same rate, things aren't aligned. So I highly recommend, if you haven't done this and you're questioning your cycle and if it feels like your hormones are imbalanced, definitely go ask your doctor to have your hormone panels checked, and they most likely will tell you to do a day 4 and day 21 blood work. But if they don't, I would bring it up to them and ask why they haven't suggested it, because you need to be educated about your health too. So, when it comes to eating in your luteal phase, you want to focus on vitamin B rich foods. So, that will help starve off those like sugar cravings that we get all the time. And you want to boost your calcium and magnesium with leafy greens. And this helps with that water weight. Like, I know for me, I deal with such severe water weight. I'll look at photos of myself like week by week and I'm like, oh, I look like 2 different people. Or it looks like it's 2 years apart. Like, it doesn't look like it could possibly in the same month. So this helps with, again, getting rid of anything excess, flushing things out. So you want to add roasted or baked veggies to help your liver and your large intestine to flush out your estrogen. So again, anyone who has endometriosis or any hormone imbalances, if you have high estrogen, you really want to be supporting your liver and having more fiber and helping everything flush out all of that estrogen that sort of does build up while you are in your luteal phase. This part of your cycle, you will start to feel like your energy is slowing down. At the beginning half of this phase, again, because it's about 10 days, you will have lots of energy to burn. So you're kind of coming off your ovulation where you're hitting those hard workouts, you're doing your best. So you're still going to be riding that energy, but then you're going to slowly start to see it get lower and lower. And that's when you want to scale back. And again, paying attention to your body, being able to see, am I ready to get up at 7 a.m. and go to the gym, or do I want to save my, daily movement or workout for a 5 p.m. walk? So you want to really tune in with your body as this 10-day phase continues to see where you're at and how you can adjust your exercise to your lowering energy levels. When it comes to your just like general life and everything, you want to be able to complete those tasks, like I said, but also check things off your to-do list. It's going to feel extra special and like you're going to feel extremely accomplished during this time. And you want to carve out more larger chunks of time to do project work and get it done. Because your energy levels are lower, you're not going to be powering through work or just things at home the same way. So you want to give yourself a bit more time and a bit more grace as you're navigating things. Something that's important this phase, but I would say actually all 28 days, not just this phase, but definitely during this phase of your cycle, is you want to be able to speak up for yourself and say what you mean and set those boundaries. This is a big one. Setting boundaries. We've talked about this before. We'll talk about it again. But especially during this, when your energy levels are dropping and you're not feeling your most social or your most confident, it's really important to set boundaries for what you are willing to do work-wise, what you're willing to do socially, and just making sure that you're protecting your energy, because no one else is going to protect it for you. You got to take care of it yourself. And lastly, when it comes to love, your sex life, your relationships, in the first half of this week, again, because you're coming off ovulation, you still feel like pretty hot and excited. But as the energy starts to drop, you're going to feel a little bit more like you want romance. So this is when you want those candles, the flowers, sort of feeling special from your partner, and don't be afraid to ask for it. Again, you're not going to get anything unless you ask for it. Ask and you shall receive. So this is a great time to let your partner know that you need a little bit more like date night, maybe a long massage, put some candles on before bedtime, whatever it may be. You want to be able to articulate that. And again, really focus on foreplay. It's a really important part for everyone. But I think this is a great time to make that a bit more of a priority so that you really enjoy yourself during this time of the month. And also, when it comes to your relationships, it's really important to talk to your friends, give them a little heads up that maybe you're going to be pulling back socially, that you're not really in the mood to be doing all the different things that you would normally do. And I think just being able to articulate that to the people closest to you helps them support you through your phases as well and not feel like there's any friction or any emotional charge between the two of you. So that way that your relationships continue to be healthy and you're able to be around each other when you're feeling your best. And especially as we know, women, a lot of times our cycles sync up together. So you and your friends are likely going to be social around the same time and a little bit less social around the same time. But you don't want to be afraid to speak up for what you need, especially in these different phases of your cycle. So now that we know what the four phases are, thank you. Basically the women who have gone ahead and done this research and advocated for all of us to know this about our health and our bodies, because I truly would have no idea this is what my body goes through every 28 days. Actually, for me, I actually don't know yet. After surgery, my cycle's been a little bit all over the place. So before, I had a very short cycle. I had like a 22-day cycle, so I was getting my period pretty often. Now I would say it's a little bit longer, but again, I know from my doctors after surgery that my cycle will take a couple months to find its routine and rhythm. And I think that's also another big thing is as women, our bodies are changing so much all the time. These hormones are fluctuating over the period of 28 days. We have a lot of different things in our life that can disrupt our hormones, not only food and alcohol and caffeine, but some of our skincare products, our fragrances, even the candles that we love to burn. So, as you're diving into understanding your body a bit more, especially when it comes to giving yourself that rest and reset that your body needs, I think using these four phases of your cycle is such a great foundation for building your connection to your body, for building that sort of trust and the ability to feel your best, especially knowing it's okay if you're tired. It's okay if you don't have energy to socialize. And it's also okay when you feel like, man, I can lift the most amount of weight I've ever lifted before and to feel great about it while it's happening and not to feel sad about it like a week later when you're not able to do that. So when we understand our phases, we understand ourselves better and we can really lean into that and allow ourselves to feel our best, give our bodies what they're craving, what they're needing, and to be able to support ourselves as we navigate so many things in life that aren't stable. We can definitely be able to create a bit of stability within our phases, how we live and operate during those phases. And again, I am not a doctor, so I probably should have said this at the beginning, but I am not a doctor. This is just me sharing my research, my findings that other people have researched way more in depthly than I have. And if you're ever feeling like your body just doesn't feel right, if you can't even put words to what that means, that's totally okay because a lot of times we don't know what this right feeling is. But if you know that it's not feeling your best, maybe your PMS is feeling like way too long and way too intense, I highly recommend going and talking to your doctor, whether it's your gynecologist or your family care doctor or actually seeing a functional medicine specialist, whatever it may be, whoever you go to for support, I highly recommend going and talking to your doctor about your hormones and trying to understand where your hormones are at. It will give you a lot more insight to your body and maybe help you answer some questions that you've been dealing with or struggling with in terms of how you've been feeling. So, again, I'm not a doctor. This is my personal experience and something I really wanted to share because it has given me a lot more understanding and enlightenment the last couple of years as I've dived into this a bit more. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer based on my personal experience, but I can also point you in directions of whether it's books, podcasts, different things like that for you to talk to people who understand a bit more than me because I am not a specialist. But I really do hope this inspired you to get a little bit closer to yourself, get in tune with what your body's craving, what it's needing, and how to feel your best no matter what's going on in life based on the phases. And I appreciate you being here. This community is such a beautiful space, and I'm so glad this episode was for the girls. We obviously do everything for everyone, but I just really felt like this one was a necessary one for this month with our intention. If you haven't subscribed, this would be the best time to subscribe so that you get updated on our new episodes every Sunday. You can watch them on YouTube. Follow us on all the social channels. Everything's linked in the show notes. And if you haven't been shopping Mary Young, a little shout out to Mary Young. We launched our very first ever lace collection. So maybe we'll talk about this next week. But highlight is it is our first 3-piece lace collection. It's our holiday collection, and it's really beautiful. It's something I had never planned on doing. I'm not really a lace girl, but I love the way that we've done such an intentional use of lace just in the trimming and the details, and it feels so good on the skin. It's not itchy like most lace from fast fashion brands is. Ours is really beautiful lace that's actually made in Italy, and everything obviously is ethically and sustainably produced in Montreal in Canada. So definitely check it out. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can do so in the show notes and you'll receive 15% off your first order. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for being here. This year has been so beautiful to grow the self love community together, especially with the podcast. I hope you have an amazing day and remember to love yourself first.